Hey guys, my name is Yusuf, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to invest for the upcoming bull market and how to try to make as much money as you can through crypto, because that's exactly what I did when I joined back in 2017. It's been about 10 years almost, closer to 9 years, but I've made millions. I've also lost a ton of money, and I've learned a lot of lessons through the beginning of my journey to where I am now. And the game has gotten harder as we've moved along. It was much simpler back then. There weren't many coins, so it was easy to just put your money in any coin really and it'll pump. It's not the case today. Today you have to be much more selective, understand the landscape, and there's a lot more narratives around. And as you guys can see here on my screen, we've got different factors to take into account. So I'm quickly going to go over the criteria we need to see an easy mode in the markets, which is what we want to trade in. We don't really want to swim upstream. We want to go with the stream. And that's usually you're trading with the market, not against it. So currently, confidence is extremely low because Bitcoin's price is low, and that's going to derail the confidence in alts. People are going to be comfortable investing in alts if the king isn't doing well. So right now, not a place to invest in when confidence is low. Now, the second thing we got to look at is liquidity. And liquidity in this context refers to, is liquidity flowing into the alt market? And currently the answer is no. In 2021, we had a crisis which forced the Fed to print a ton of money into the markets. We had money printing going on turbo speed, and that money was finding its way into the markets. That's why we saw a ton of projects go from almost zero valuation to billions if you picked the right projects. And even if you didn't, eventually it would work. If you didn't, if your coin didn't pump in 2020, it would pump in 2021. And that was the case with what I saw in some of the coins I invested in 2021, especially towards the end of the cycle. Everything just went ballistic. We had 50x runners in a matter of a couple of months. It was absolutely crazy to see. Currently, that isn't the case. We're in a tightening environment. We're trying to get inflation under control, and interest rates are still up. So we don't have the money printer on at all in this current environment. So we got to wait till that changes for things to go back into easy mode. Of course, that doesn't need to change, but it would help. Next, we have market conditions. Current market conditions are bearish. This is not conducive to investing in low cap alts, which is where most of the gains will be made. Of course, you can also do mid caps. So anything between 200 million to 500 million. Anything below that I would consider a bit smaller. So right now we're not in those conditions. Bullish market conditions allow for more runners because the confidence is high. It allows for more liquidity to be attracted. So we're not in that phase. It's important to identify which phase we're in, because you're trying to force trades and saying, oh, we have a runner when it's only running to 3 million, 4 million. Not really conducive to keeping your capital, because if you think things are going to run higher in this environment and they don't, they tend to collapse, and they collapse pretty hard. We're talking about like 60, 70% drawdowns. So taking profit in this environment is the name of the game. If you're hunting those low caps and you're making good gains, taking profits and compounding them for when good times come is the way to play this game. So we're currently in bearish conditions, so narratives don't matter as much, tech doesn't matter as much. There's a small window of opportunity during these phases of outperformance where you'll see coins run, but then they'll collapse extremely hard, and there's a ton of examples on that on-chain. You'll barely see any runners, anything able to sustain price, because attention is not there and fear is definitely present. So let's talk about the next couple of things here on the list: narrative, attention, timing, belief. First thing I want to talk about is narrative. If you guys don't know, haven't been in the space, narrative is king, and it has been king since 2017. It's pretty much what runs the crypto market. This might change in the future, and we'll talk about that. But currently, crypto is mostly around narrative and rarely about tech. Speculation and hype are some of the biggest driving forces at the moment. Of course, tech helps, a team helps, fundamentals definitely do help, but it's mainly about the story behind the coin. This might change in the future, but at this point, we simply aren't there. The market will shift through different narratives throughout the cycle. So in early 2023, this is when we were shifting from the end of the bear to the beginning of the bull. We began to have more of a resurgence in on-chain interest, and that took shape with Unibot. Now, Unibot was a simple Telegram bot, allow you to buy and sell assets from on-chain, and that was seen as something novel, something shiny, something new. And at the time, people were kind of unsure because we were in a bear phase for so long that we didn't have much confidence in on-chain. However, because I was on top of the market, I had my pulse on the market, I was able to identify Unibot as a winner. I found out about $4 million, and it ran all the way to 200 million. That's a 50x. I didn't hold all the way up there, but I made a good amount of money, about a 15x off of Unibot. And the reason why this ran is because we had attention converge onto one asset. And we had the liquidity to set off everything else. So once that happened, we could see, okay, on-chain was back. We had our first $200 million runner from a $4 million. That's absolutely insane. And then we began to see Ethereum memes take off on the Ethereum mainnet. And we had coins like HPOS 10, which if you guys don't know at the time, was called Harry Potter Abomasonic 10. It was an absolutely just dumb name, to be honest. But it got the attention of the people. And it ran from 10 million to 500 million in a very short amount of time. So once we began to saw that, we could tell, okay, on-chain activity is beginning to come alive. And the important thing about this is that even if you didn't catch these two players at the beginning, you would have caught everything else to come after, but you would have avoided all the pain in between. And the point here is that it's better to be late and see the confirmation rather than early and for conditions to change. Here, if you waited for the conditions to change, yes, you would have missed maybe Unibot or the meme coins, but you would have caught everything that came after. And there was a lot of things that came after it. So after that initial phase in 2023, which lasted, I would say, about 6 months, we had a move to Solana. And Solana's move happened towards the end of 2023, around November, December. And that's where I began to notice a shift in narrative. Okay, and it's very important to keep your tabs on the market because unless you're living and breathing this thing day to day, you will not detect these shifts in the market. So around late 2023, we had the bonk move, and the bonk move was absolutely insane. I don't remember the starting market cap because I wasn't involved, but it did move pretty substantially. That caught the attention of a lot of people in the space, and that got me interested in Solana. I think around February of 2024. It took me a couple months to make the shift over, but that was mainly because I was holding tech coins and fundamental coins, I'd call them, in 2023 and 2024, the beginning of it. And then I noticed the shift happen, and I noticed my coins not performing well, so I had to make a very difficult decision. I've been holding these coins for a very long time. They made me a lot of money back in 2021. I had to sell all of them off because they were just dying, and that was actually the right decision to make, because if I looked at the portfolio today, it would basically be at zero because the coins didn't perform. It doesn't mean they're dead now. It just means the interest shifted towards what we now know in hindsight was memes. And memes were the killer narrative for 2024. Almost all of 2024 was about memes. You would barely be seeing projects actually pump until you went towards the end of 2024, which was the presidential election hype. And a lot of coins pumped during that. It was like a mini 2021 phase where we got to see anything with substance pump, but for the most part, memes were the narrative, which is why you got to pay attention to what the narrative is. Otherwise, you'll never make it in this space if you don't have your pulse on what's grabbing the narrative. And narrative is also to do with attention, but there can be different types of narratives going on that grab attention from different times. So I would say currently we're in the AI narrative, the real world assets narrative, we're also in the meme narrative. Those are the three. But they can shift in attention from time to time. So with attention in a bear market, attention is usually fleeting. Coins won't be able to reach high ceilings because sentiment is low and collective belief about where coins can run isn't high. And that's currently where we're at. Depending on the narrative, attention will shift from one narrative to the other, which is why it's important to lock in profits on the way up. So in this current environment, we simply don't have the attention required to sustain high market caps, let alone $5 million market caps without seeing things collapse in a couple of days, if not weeks. So right now, based on today's environment, the thing we're seeing sustain attention is AI. AI is eating up the attention in the crypto space, and it seems to be the place where we're going to have capital converge in the coming years. Because even in the bear market, what we're noticing is that, yes, AI is still eating up attention. We can see that by performance of AI coins over anything else. Memes are dying. Real world assets are not doing too well. And the only thing really holding up is memes. So it's important to pay attention to where money is flowing, because where attention goes, money flows. Next thing we have to talk about here is timing. In the bear market, you have to be extremely selective about when to deploy capital. So many people here force trades when there isn't a good one to be made, and on-chain is usually dead during the bear phase, and this is what we're seeing. On-chain is dead. It doesn't mean there's not projects building, and that's why you have to keep tabs on projects and see if they're progressing, if they're still trying to push forward, or have they given up and the project is dead, because those are projects you want to avoid. Whereas look for people that are still building, protocols that are still going, because the market will misprice these things, and the best time to actually buy is during these depressed phases, even though it doesn't look like it. Now, if you bet on something too early in the bear phase, attention could fade, and a new shiny object that's closer to the bull phase runs instead, because it was able to pop up at the right place at the right time. So there could be duplicate AI projects trying to accomplish the same thing, but one of them is released much closer to the bull phase than the bear phase. And it's kind of a game of patience, really, because in today's environment, it's not so much first come is holding the place for number one. No, it's more so to do with attention. If a project is able to launch in better conditions and has a better team, then people will be more willing to bet on that new project that is closer towards a better chart because they avoided the bear phase, rather than bet on an old project that has old holders that were waiting to dump and get out and have all that sell pressure, which is why it's important to be patient with these investments and wait until their time is right. And it comes back to better to be late and see confirmation rather than early and hope that things will change. So a lot of this stuff has to do with belief. Do you believe that we're going to enter into a good phase, or are the good times completely gone and we're done with it? So this is the source of round trips or multi-millions. This requires balance. So what I mean by this is that I had invested in multiple meme coins in 2025 and 2024. One of them happened to be Troll. I managed to get into Troll at 15 million. And had I not believed that we could get into the hundreds of millions, I would have missed out on some big wins. But at the same time, if I believed we're going to hit the billions, then I also would have missed out on my profits. So this requires a bit of balance, and it's very hard to get things exactly right. That's not kind of the aim of what to do here. You never regret taking profits. That's one thing I've learned in crypto. You never regret taking profits. You regret taking too much profit, sure, but the key here is to find balance. There's ways to find whether a coin is topping out or if it's getting close to exhaustion. You can never get it 100% right. You can just do your best, and then the rest you just have to move on and find other opportunities, because in this space, there's always other opportunities. Since I got started with this space, there's no shortage of innovation or experiments going on in the space that give me the opportunity to invest in new projects and make a return. So there are signs, like I said, of what to pick out for, and I'll leave those for later videos. But the key idea here is that you take profits on the way up and you keep on selling until finally you squeeze all the juice you can from the coin and just move on. If it keeps going higher, that's fine. Not much you can do. So let's talk about the next phase in the market, because we've talked about what to currently do in this phase. What about next phase? So how does this next crypto run change from the last one? And from the last one, from 2021, it has changed in a huge way. 2021 was nothing like 2024. I think 2024 had its challenges because liquidity was not as plentiful as it was in 2021, but it also could have been easy if you picked the right assets, because it was very concentrated into memes. If you just focused on memes, you would have made a lot of returns, but a lot of people have an aversion to memes because they have no fundamental value. It's just you're trading vaporware, and I can understand that argument. I had an aversion to memes up until I saw Doge do what it did, and it changed the way I saw the markets. People will bet on belief rather than just fundamentals. So I think we're changing now. We're going to go back to the next phase. I think what happened this time around was unique, and I think we're going to be returning. So what I think we'll see is more focus on tech and utility. Memes will still have their place, but because we have such a new supply of memes coming out every second, the focus will be on existing memes rather than the old ones, rather than the new ones, I should say. So that's what I think we're going to move towards here. I don't think we're going to be moving towards continuous memes. I think we're going to be moving towards AI. AI is going to be the central focus, but on top of that, we're also going to have DeFi. DeFi is another really strong narrative within the space. I think those two have a lot of room to run, because currently the use case within crypto is decentralized AI and stablecoins. Those are the two kind of narratives that have been popping out constantly on my radar, and what I think we're going to be heading towards in the near future. I mean, the whole use case of Ethereum is DeFi, and then we have BitTensor, Tau. We also have Fetch AI. We have a handful of AI projects looking to innovate within the space and disrupt the centralization of AI. So we're going to go ahead and see where the future will take us, but this is the current framework I'm using to navigate the space. And of course, there's a lot more to discuss. I just can't put it all in one video, otherwise it's be an hour long. But this is kind of a quick view on how I'm navigating the current market conditions and how I plan to navigate the future cycle as we move forward. Of course, things can change. Like I said, everything changes every week as time comes on, and I'll have to adapt my strategy based on what I'm seeing in real time to get the best returns. In 2024, like I said, I was late to memes, but I wasn't too late to the game not to make the greatest gains. So let's see what happens. I just wanted to share this with you guys, and hopefully it helps you guys. And if it did, make sure to leave a comment and a like. It does help me as I put a lot of time and thought into these videos. So with that said, I'll see you guys on the next one.